was always the apple of his eye. I talked to him. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I think he wanted the whole country.
You've said for months.
And because of me, I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting.
Well, let's discuss the last 100 days of the Trump administration with a particular focus this morning on Ukraine with Erol Morkoc, who is Republican overseas spokesperson, and also Ukrainian MP Sviatoslav Yurash. Thank you both very much for being with us. Erol Morkoc, do you think Vladimir Putin wants to stop fighting, and will Donald Trump be the person to help broker that deal?
I don't think he's the type of person to want to stop fighting based on his constant and unchecked aggression he has presented to the world for the last 20 years. He's somebody who needs to be stopped from further incursions and somebody who needs to be dealt with in a sadly sober, realistic way based on the success he has had, especially during the last administration. I do think that he can be boxed into a corner and he can be forced into a situation where peace is on the table. The Russian economy probably can't continue in this wartime situation for more than another 2 years. So there is a sort of time decay on Vladimir Putin's aggression, and I think we can use that and exploit it for peace, hopefully for both sides.
Sviatoslav, do you feel that that's what Donald Trump is doing successfully, boxing Vladimir Putin into a corner?
Well, the truth is we understand that Donald Trump is changing his perspective on the situation. We have seen the evolution of the discussion that happened in various different capacities, but it's very clear that the discussion right now is far different than what it was in the beginning. But we also understand that in that, Vladimir Putin is doing a lot of helping and showing to the world every single day what he means, when he talks about ceasefire, when he attacks Ukrainian cities and kills Ukrainian people and continues the fighting all across the front line. Donald Trump is seeing that he has no partner in President Putin, and this is clear to him and to the world.
Well, that's interesting because that's a relatively recent change, arguably since the meeting in the Vatican with Volodymyr Zelensky, Erol Morkoc. Do you think that there has been a genuine change? I mean, that kind of piece that he wrote on Truth Social, where right at the end he says, "I'm starting to wonder if Vladimir Putin's just stringing me along." Do you think that will actually form his foreign policy and whether or not he puts sanctions against Russia now?
Yes, I believe that, he came in with a mandate for peace. And to do that, you have to at least open that door. And to somebody like Vladimir Putin, that's a dangerous thing to do and a risky thing to do. And certainly he's not a good actor. And Donald Trump, I think the sort of patience or open door policy is quickly coming to an end.
Can I just interrupt you there for a moment? Because I'm really curious to get your thoughts on why you think up until this point he hasn't really applied, his critics would say certainly, that he hasn't really applied much pressure to Russia, that all the pressure has been put on Ukraine. Why?
Well, because of that's just the game theory of the situation, the leverage mechanics. We've been supporting Ukraine wholeheartedly and for good reason. They're our allies. They're on the right side of this battle, and they're who we hope to win this war. But when you get to a war of attrition, and in a stalemate, every military strategist will eventually say that you need to sue for peace. And in that situation, Donald Trump came in and he gave leeway to Vladimir Putin that was generous, I would say very generous. But it was based on humanitarian hope that there would be a reach for peace. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken that olive branch and he's extended things further. Now, when you talk about further sanctions, that becomes very interesting because that would mean that we start sanctioning countries that work with Russia. That's all that's left because Russia's under quite a lot of heavy sanctions. So the last round of sanctions would escalate things to a situation that, if you want to find a historical parallel, when we cut off, for example, the fuel to the Japanese and before World War II, they bombed Pearl Harbor. When you push things to a certain level, escalation can happen in game theory. And that's why I think President Trump came in at least with some olive branches before this current time.
Sviatoslav, your final thoughts on that? I mean, we were speaking to a commentator earlier who was talking about how most Americans don't really connect with the situation in Ukraine. That's not really where Donald Trump's focus is. And also that there seems to be a conversation beginning now about how this all started back in 2014 with Crimea. History starts wherever you want to begin your narrative kind of thing. And sort of softening the ground maybe around giving Crimea to Russia. Can you see that happening?
America is always choosing the right option after it exhausts all other options. Wasn't said by me, but about other conflict in which there was the same debate about American policy. And I must say, in this situation, we're seeing the evolution of the American position happen once again, and we shall try to provide many more evidence. But beyond us, Mr. Putin is showing the evidence every single time he bombards Ukrainian cities, and he can help himself bomb them every single day.
What do you think of the 3-day ceasefire planned for May?
I think a mirage has happened before when he announced an Easter ceasefire, and then his chief of staff announced all the attacks across the front lines. Russia has been known throughout history to do one thing clearly, that is lie and lie and lie some more.
Thank you both very much for your thoughts this morning. And that's Sviatoslav Yurash, who is a Ukrainian MP, and Erol Morkoc. Thank you, Erol, for Republican Overseas.
The manager